Elisa Lam was just 21, a Canadian student on a solo trip that was all about finding herself, exploring new places, and embracing independence. But what started as an exciting adventure took a dark turn, leading to one of the most bizarre and unsettling mysteries in recent crime history. It all unfolded in a notorious building in Los Angeles, the Cecil Hotel. This place had a long, grim history, known for tragic events like suicides and drug overdoses, and it had even housed some infamous killers in the past. When Eliza checked in during January 2013, she had no idea about the heavy shadows lurking in the hotel's past. She booked a shared room, hoping to connect with other travelers, but soon her behavior became a bit strange and unsettling to her roommates. They noticed things that seemed off, and before long, hotel management decided to move her into a private room. This shift felt almost like a foreshadowing of her growing isolation as she drifted further into the eerie unknown. It's just heartbreaking to think about how her quest for independence led her into such a chilling situation. That later seemed almost symbolic of her increasing isolation in the days before she vanished. On January 31st, Eliza was last seen, but the story most people know begins not with her disappearance itself, but with a video, a surveillance clip released by the LAPD in hopes of finding answers. And that video grainy, slow, almost dreamlike showed Eliza inside the hotel's elevator, and what she did in those few minutes ignited years of speculation, theories, and nightmares. She stepped inside the elevator and pressed multiple buttons, as if trying to send the car to several different floors at once, but the doors didn't close, they just remained open. And Eliza began peeking out into the hallway, hiding in the corner, stepping in and out, making frantic gestures as if speaking to someone unseen or running from someone just out of view. And then in the most chilling moment, she began to move her arms in a strange, deliberate pattern, bending her wrists and fingers in unnatural ways, like she was signaling or pushing against invisible walls, before finally walking away, leaving the elevator door still stubbornly open, and that was the last confirmed sighting of her alive. Days passed and Elisa's family, already concerned about her history of bipolar disorder, demanded answers, but the hotel offered little, saying she had simply vanished. And meanwhile, guests began to complain of strange things, not about Eliza, but about the water in their rooms, describing how it tasted odd, how the water pressure was weak, how at times the liquid that came out of the taps and showers was black or foul-smelling, and maintenance staff were finally sent to check the rooftop water tanks, the massive metal structures that supplied the hotel with its supply, and inside one of them, floating naked, her clothes nearby, they found the decomposing body of Elisa Lam. The discovery was horrific, not just for the tragedy itself, but for the fact that guests had been drinking, bathing, and brushing their teeth with contaminated water from that tank, unknowingly sharing in her final resting place. And as the autopsy came back, the story grew even more confusing rather than clear, because toxicology reports showed no evidence of drugs or alcohol in her system except for traces of her prescribed medication, and the coroner's office ruled the death an accidental drowning. But questions erupted immediately. How had Eliza even gained access to the rooftop, an area supposedly locked and alarmed? How had she managed to open the heavy water tank lid and climb inside? And most of all, why? Some pointed to her mental health, suggesting a manic episode had driven her into irrational, dangerous behavior. But others looked deeper into the unsettling elevator video, claiming she had been pursued by someone unseen, that perhaps she was hiding from an attacker, or that she was already trapped in some kind of psychotic break. But there were darker, more elaborate theories, too. Ones fueled by the Cecil Hotel's history and its uncanny connection to death, with some arguing that Eliza had become another victim of the building's curse, that her strange gestures in the elevator resembled rituals, that she wasn't alone in those final moments, or that something beyond the human had taken her. Conspiracy theorists dug into coincidences, like the similarity between her case and a movie called Dark Water, in which a girl's body is found in a rooftop water tank of a haunted building, or how a tuberculosis outbreak near the hotel shortly after Elisa's death was tested with a kit called Lam Elisa. A bizarre alignment of her name and the disease, details that seemed almost too strange to be real, and yet were. But amid the noise of theories, the facts remained. Elisa Lam was a young woman traveling alone who vanished inside a building with a long, violent history, who behaved in ways that seemed impossible to explain, and who ended up in a place no one could account for. And the case endures not just as a crime or a tragedy, but as a cultural obsession, the kind of mystery that resists closure, leaving a permanent gap between what is known and what is imagined. And in that gap grows the unease, the sense that what happened to Elisa Lam is not just a story about one woman in one hotel, but a story about how the line between reality and nightmare can blur, about how the walls of a place can remember, about how sometimes answers never come and the elevator doors never close.